Hey everybody, Robert Hunt, HotTop10.com. Here I am in London at the Royal Academy, about to go to the press review of Making Modernism. Paula Modersohn-Becker, Käthe Kollwitz, Gabriele Munter and Marianne Werfkin. Right, so let's head inside and see what happens. So here we are inside Making Modernism, and you've got a little thing on the wall here as you head in. There we go, Making Modernism, showing you obviously the key artists in this thing. Gabriele Munter, Paula Modersohn-Becker, Käthe Kollwitz and Marianne Werfkin. In their lifetimes, the role of women in society, this is from the booklet, was under fierce public debate. Influential books such as The German Woman at the Turn of the Century highlighted the economic and political disadvantages borne by women and anticipate the movement for women's suffrage. Yet many still believe German women should dedicate themselves to Kinder, Küche and Kirche, children, kitchen and church. And excluded from the main academies of art, women with the means to do so relied on private lessons, interesting, to begin their artistic education, followed by classes at ladies' academies, art schools established by the Association of Women Artists. They were not members of a coherent artist movement, yet their works all engaged with expressionism, a term to describe art guided by heightened and inner emotions. Okay, so the exhibition kicks off with Ourselves and Others. So as it said, it brings together 7 artists active in Germany. Some of these knew each other while others never met. I think this is actually quite interesting. This bit, self-portraiture became a crucial means to explore questions of identity, and when exhibited to assert a presence in public life. I have to say, I think it's quite interesting, the whole idea of self-portrait being a means to explore questions of identity. Gives it a nice sense of meaning. And I'm trying to find a self-portrait here. I keep wandering around looking at these pictures. Trying to find a self-portrait that says that. I mean, I suppose you could say this one does. Paula Modersohn-Becker, self-portrait in front of window with a view of Parisian houses. I suppose because she's in the Paris house, that does pick up some element of her out and about, maybe. I'm not sure. I suppose you could say this one is quite a sort of striking, brave, confident picture of somebody. They're not looking like a woman who's forced just to look after children and go to church. And this is just a sort of flamboyant, fancy-hatted picture. Could be a portrait. Sorry, could be a self-portrait. Interesting. The self-portraits is a way of discovering your identity. It's not being communicated to me by the pictures themselves. Apart from they all seem very confident. So maybe that is something that... I mean, here we go, saying Käthe Kollwitz has got a confident pose raised by a socialist family. Devoting her talents to the graphic arts so she could reach a wider public. Possibly. I suppose actually this one around here, that maybe fits a bit more into this idea of the self-portrait as a sort of sense of discovery. Gabriele Munter. Oh, this is not a self-portrait, this is yet again it's painted the Swedish-born author Erma Bossi while in Copenhagen, sorry. But obviously sitting there with her smoking a pipe, she's quite a confident figure. I like the black down there when you've got the brush strokes shuffling around. Interesting. So, I think it's interesting that self-portrait became a crucial means to explore questions of identity, but I don't necessarily think that is... I don't know, is it exhibited here? I'm not entirely sure. Just going to have a look at the pictures for a moment and see what I think. Incidentally, at the end of this, it is called Art Top 10, so I'm going to choose my favourite picture of the exhibition, my number 1 picture. So hang on to the end, and I will come back with that number 1 picture. I do rather like these interiors. They're kind of slightly strange and childish, but kind of gentle and sweet at the same time. I'm always fascinated how the paint is put on these things. Frankly, absolutely obsessed with how the paint is put on, but then if you're an artist and a painter, I guess that's one of the key things that bothers you the whole time. whether that paint is flat, whether you've got the brush strokes, or whether... And look at this one, it's quite interesting. This one is quite thickly painted, actually. Whereas this one to the right is much lighter painted. That's oil tempera on canvas, and this is oil on canvas. Interesting. And then this one, Gabriele Munter. This is rather beautifully painted. I like it when you can see the colours at the back coming through again. So I think if you were going to argue about the relevance of the self-portrait, they do all come across as very strong, independent women, which I guess is something they were not potentially meant to be doing. So the portrait does work in that way. I'd say it's more of a assertion of how they wanted to live than a personal soliloquy. What I do find absolutely fascinating is a little picture here. Gabriele Munter, who I didn't realise, became part of a couple with Kandinsky, and they would paint side by side. This is a fantastic little picture here, I love it. Sort of with a yellow house. Anyway, this house is known as Yellow House, sort of relating to Van Gogh. I think this is my number one picture in this first bit. Because it's just a bit mad, a bit cartoony, but quite fun, and yeah, I'm interested in interiors. And how you can take those quite sort of, straightforward topics and make something out of it. And this is my number 2 picture in this part of the exhibition. Because look at that, it's another crazy little picture there. Look at that lovely green on the background. You can still see the sienna in the bottom. Moving on into what will be the second part of the exhibition. Let's see what we think about this one. Century of the Child. Cut a long story short, I think the idea is the figure of the child came to symbolise new and contradictory meanings. Both joy, hope, innocence, tension, curiosity, melancholy and loss. Let's have a little stroll around. That's just really crazy. Look at these little green babies. Absolutely mad. Really weird. You've got a cat. Look at that crazy little cat. Sweet. Modernism-Becker. I'm not sure if I can quite tell which one of these artists is which yet. As in, does one of them have a particular style to themselves? This is a crazy sort of weird... Oh, this is somebody else. As you say, there's not many of these ones. I think it's 7 artists, but primarily 4. So this Jacoba van Heemskerck is one of the extra ones they've popped in occasionally. She embraced abstraction, responding in part to Concerning the Spiritual and Art by Kandinsky. I rather like that picture. It's pretty cool. It's very almost a bit like those late de Koonings. Oh, that's a crazy cool picture with those eyes shut and a sort of hypnotic vibe. And these are these kind of classic Käthe Kollwitz pictures. An etching produced during the print cycle of Peasants' War. There's another Käthe Kollwitz. Everybody always seems to be obsessed with Käthe Kollwitz. Certainly they were when I was at art school, or raving about how amazing she was. She's obviously very good at drawing. I suppose they are, obviously they're good pictures, but they're very, here's more of them here, masses of them. They are very much a love scene, woman with their child, death, woman and child, death and woman. These must be sort of symbolic ones. They're obviously very well drawn. I guess there's something that slightly irritates me about the fact everybody goes, "Oh wow, isn't she amazing?" That sort of makes you slightly less amazed. I don't know, they're very good drawings. They are, I suppose they're quite, I don't know, what is it that irritates me about them? I think it's something to do with maybe the overt storytelling. Maybe, I don't know, a bit of a dangerous thing to say, but I think even one like this, these lovers nestling against each other, I actually think it's just a bit cheesy. Difficult. Don't know what to say about them. Maybe I'm not the right person to look at them. We've drifted into this room here, intimacy incidentally. in all honesty, I couldn't find as many of the things they talk about children in the last room anyway. This room, interests me, brings together paintings by Modernism-Becker, conversation with drawing and prints by Kollwitz. The female body was a subject as powerful and significant as a self-portrait. Modernism-Becker combined both genres in self-portrait as a standing nude with hat. This radical portrayal of her own naked body was a daring transgression on decorum. In 1906, she left her husband, embarked on painting a series of life-size nudes in which she rests this traditional subject from the male eroticizing gaze. Where's the one with the hat? Sorry, spinning round. I know you guys hate it when I spin round. Where is it? Is this it? Self-portrait, here we go, of a standing nude with hat. Based on photographs of the artist. Probably taken by her sister. Often holding fruit. Intriguing. Oh, nice. And there's a bit of sort of Dürer and Krenek the Elder thrown in. So she's putting herself into art historical tradition. It is boldly simplified. It's quite interesting, actually. Quite interesting in that standing nude with hat. That is the one we're talking about, isn't it? That we're looking at over here. Yeah. Intriguing because it's actually quite idealised. She left her face out of it, which is intriguing. If it is this radical assertion, it's quite intriguing. She left the face out. Was that because it would have been dangerous? Because then, that was 1906, and there's another one in 1906. Oh, Mother with Child in Her Arms. Not sure if it's her. Intriguing. Very intriguing. I like these paintings. I particularly like that. You've got beautiful. Seems ever to talk about this really. It seems ever part of what's on here, but it's painted quite nicely. You've got those lovely colours, those pinks moving against all the different things here, and the beautiful browns in the background. You can see the canvas in the background coming through. I find all those things far more interesting. That's obviously a really striking image and slightly disturbing. Strange one. And that gives me more of a vibe of sort of like yeah, maybe you could say Klimt or even Munch and the sort of crazy scream thing. Very weird the way those thighs have got that darkened colour. Intriguing. Can't help thinking. I know it's hands with a chamomile flower. I can't help thinking it looks like they're holding a piece of sushi. Absolutely ludicrous comment, but I can't help making it. Quite interesting little thing I just read there. This sculpture is actually by Käthe Kollwitz. And when I was looking at this picture over here that I said was a bit cheesy... Oh, sorry. When I was looking at this picture over here that I thought was a bit cheesy, lovers nestling against each other, I did think it looked like a Rodin, and it does. It looked exactly like one of those Rodin sculptures, which is quite intriguing. So she nicked that image off Rodin, which is intriguing. Very intriguing. I think that's a bit of a Rodin nick as well. Not that there's anything wrong with stealing these images, because obviously that's the way you work things on, but I did think it looked so Rodin-y, even though I suppose to a degree it's quite interesting. She's got that sort of slippery serpent feel to the work that you get in those Rodins. Right, here we are, city, town and country. Oh, here we go again. I get so bored, utterly senseless with the bustle of the metropolis, inspired exuberant paintings by Heemskerck and Bossi. We always have to have something about the city, don't we? Every single exhibition. I mean, they live in a city. There's going to be pictures of a city. So we no doubt have to hear important things of what the city did. Oh, these are absolutely wonderful. Look at these gorgeous little, tiny little sketchbooks. Mixed media on paper. These are just absolutely wonderful. Oh, I forgot to do my top 10 for the last room. We might sneak back in a moment and do that. Maybe we'll go through at the end. Anyway, what are we going to see they're saying about the city here? Mantra travel internationally before becoming an artist. For Modernism-Becker and Reylaender, the village of Warpswade near Bremen was very invigorating. Oh, this is rural artist Connolly. Oh, city, town and country. Okay, so we got town and country as well in here. The Warpswade colony was a place to belong. I do think it's genuinely interesting that they did form like their own little colonies and worked outside of the bounds of the norm, as it were. That, I think, is absolutely brilliant. That is kind of really almost what being an artist is about. Standing aside what you're meant to be doing the whole time, doing something different. That I think is really interesting. So they almost had to sort of, it's almost a bit underground how they were working. Right, these paintings. Right, let's try and get a vibe on them. They're not blowing me away so far. That's a really weird, lopsided picture. Absolutely bizarre. Reminds me of somebody else. Everybody would just be rolling right down that. It's quite cool. Quite like that. Old woman there holding those two huge bags, which is strange. City, town and country. I'm slightly confused by all the different titles. They don't seem to quite relate to anything in the rooms. Portrait of a woman. This work speaks to Munter's career-long visual engagement with the issues of racial difference within modernism. Still life on the tram. It says this was... She created it from memory. After seeing the woman on a tram, glimpses of urban life briefly observed in this way appealed to her interest in spontaneity. I quite like that. I suppose it's quite like a sort of spontaneous kind of way of seeing things. Look at that, a real good face, so strong and striking, like carved out of wood. Absolutely extraordinary. This one doesn't do anything for me at all. It's just like a sort of theatre thing. Don't really get the point of it. And that's kind of a bit of a bluey vibe. Oh, but the one I do quite like, this crazy little one here, with the mad coloured mountains. Look at that, nice. I like the way the mountains have got different sort of colours in them. They sort of vibrate in your head. Okay, then strolling down into what must be the last bit of the exhibition. Let's see what they say here. Okay, so this last room is still lives. Obviously discussing still life within these artists. I'm slightly mystified because it says still life, but then half the room is actually mountains and villages, so I guess that's still related to the other bit of the room, which is the bit over there, city, town and country. I quite like those three little fish. They're very Matisse, I'd say. Not quite up on my dates to know. Just a bit poor. And actually very... I do love a bit of still life. Actually, it's quite Cézanne as well, with those oranges. I wish my dates were better to know when they were all around. There are very few still lifes. I'd say there's only... 3. Is that a still life? That seems to be a picture in a mirror, which is a still life. Then we're back into more like towns. Very strange. Anyway, other than that, what I found absolutely fascinating about here is that Modernism-Becker, who I think is who I'm beginning to like most out of these artists, poor thing, died at 31. Amazing what she managed to do in that time. The paintings, I think, are pretty good. They also seem quite experimental, quite different. There's this other completely mad picture over here, which is quite fun. Jacoba van Heemskerck. This indicates her allegiance to abstraction. Stem from observable motifs, but the dominance of shape, colour and texture. The vibrations in this landscape means they're not restrained by any sense of perspective or processional scale. I just think it's really fun painting. Look at it. It's got a lot of colour and madness and excitement to it, and I like the little crazy red lines zigzagging around the black. But this is a favourite of mine here, though. I like this one. I mean, that is actually terribly contemporary. You could see that today with that sort of, it's almost got a weird horror film vibe of just sort of three houses. It must be somewhere in, where are three houses in Murnau, but I mean, they could be sort of hidden in America somewhere. It's quite a strange little picture, quite sweet and interesting. Okay, so it seems to have finished. I feel a bit mind blown actually, because I think I've been a bit swayed and confused by all the writing on the wall. I'm actually going to wander back through, just try and get a vibe of what I think about it without reading anything, and just get a sense of what's going on here. Because I think there's something quite interesting, but I don't think it relates to the text. Okay, so trying to sum it up. I think it's an interesting exhibition, really worth coming to. I think it's fascinating what these women artists were doing, especially as they weren't really supported to do it. And I love the idea they were, you know, working almost secretly in my, so I like to dramatise it, in these like rural communities or in their own little salons. You know, they weren't. But mainly because you can feel exactly like that as an artist nowadays. You know, you can feel like absolutely nothing to do with the art world, and they really are just working undercover. And it's nice to think these people who are working undercover have, you know, been brought out into the world, and their work can be seen, and, you know, the groups and what they did were important. I think the best bit of the exhibition by far is that it's the first couple of rooms. I find these last, Town and Country and Still Life, not as good. Particularly the self-portraits in the first bit are good. It's interesting. Really interesting. And also there's a lot of really nicely paint handling here, which is not really ever discussed in these things, but I think you can see a lot of it. Anyway, I'm going to try and do a top 10 of pictures, and this is going to be number 1. This one by Paula Modersohn-Becker. I think it's a great little painting. This is what I would like to take home with me, essentially. It's kind of sweet but intriguing, bizarre, beautiful colours, nice painting. You've got a sort of texture to it, and I think it's interesting that, you know, there's no face, and yet it's got a real kind of classical antiquity vibe to it. So that's number 1. Gonna go for this as number 2. I like the weird sort of combination of Egyptian vibe and just a sort of striking face of it. I think it's really painted nicely, actually. Yeah, another Paula Modersohn-Becker. Lovely, you know, great thick paint in the background. Right, so without any pause, we're going to sweep round here. Oh, I'm slightly conflicted. That was number 2. I think, ooh, let's go for it. We're going to choose this as number 3. I just love this sort of sketchy, crazy vibe, the way you can see the paint in the background, and the sort of intimiste vibe that you can see inside the room. That leads into number 4. I've started at number 1, haven't I? I'm going down to number 10. I should have done it back to front. Anyway, so this is number 4, my 4th most favourite painting. This one, really weird, a wonky vibe, bit of a, what's it called, Van Gogh sort of feeling, and them chatting in the room. And the mad stance. I'm actually just going to go for this as number 5. Again, I like the rooms. I like the, just sort of like it's like a real painting that moment when they were there, and it's got that mad carpet with all that vibe going on. Oh, it's an interesting little picture. So that was number 5. Let's find number 6. So this is my 6th favourite painting. This abstract by Jacoba van Heemskerck. Lovely, look at that. Crazy pink, big swirls, nice thick paint, different textures and feelings. I like it. Actually, that was 6. I'm actually going to go for this one I haven't really talked about as number 7. Modersohn-Becker again. I mean, look, it's such an accomplished painting. It's really weird. The new girl is really weird. The flowers are intriguing. It's got a really weird kind of atmosphere to it. Can't explain it, but it seems to have communicate something beyond itself. That was 7. I hope I've got my numbering right. 7. Now, madly enough, even though I keep moaning about Käthe Kollwitz, I'm going to go for number 8 is this one here. Lovers nestling against each other, and number 9. Love scene, mainly because they look to me exactly like Reylaender sculptures, and I think that's quite fascinating. And then let's go for this as number 10, because that is just a genuinely weird picture, and I still can't quite work out what it's meant to be doing, but it is weird and disturbing. So there we go. As ever, like and subscribe to our top 10 of my other channel, Travel Dog. And I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Subscribe so you can hear, obviously, more, pretty much every major exhibition in London I'll do a little review of, and the art fairs. So if you want to know what's happening in London, subscribe to arttop10.com. But obviously I do exhibitions and galleries from around the world as well, so it's not just here. Is there anything you want to see in London? Let me know down below, and I'll see if I can nip out and do a little film of it. Anyway, other than that, let me know if you enjoyed the top 10 pictures at the end, and cheerio, Hadarafis, auf Wiedersehen, bye bye.